Former Minister of Local Government and Rural Development and National Housing, Saviour Kasukuwere, has released a statement indicating that he will be contesting presidential elections in Zimbabwe. Now, Kasukuwere, who fled the country after the late former President Robert Mugabe was forcefully removed from power by the military, has been in South Africa since 2017. Let's get more on this now and speak to our international news editor, Sophie Mokoena, who joins us in studio now. Quite an interesting development. How has it been received?
Well, clearly there are mixed views in terms of his candidature. Some people are saying he is part of the former Mugabe regime and therefore he doesn't have credibility, while others are saying it is a good thing. In fact, when I spoke to the former Minister of Information, Professor Jonathan Moyo, a week ago, much as this was still something that was being said behind the scenes, he said, I mean, everybody must be allowed to contest elections, but the technicality is, will his papers be accepted when he is presenting his papers to the electoral court?
Particularly because when he fled, there were still some cases that were outstanding, so that could be potentially a stumbling block.
Yes, but he told me, it was last week and also earlier today, that he did present himself before the court of law and challenge the government, the current government, to take action, particularly at a time when it was not fashionable to do so immediately after there were reports that they are supposed to go and answer early days after they fled the country. But we know also that there are reports that there's a pending warrant of arrest. We couldn't really confirm whether that warrant of arrest is still applicable. But I think these are some of the issues that are likely to come up when he presents his papers on Wednesday, if there's any objection and all of that. But I think for him, he is ready, he's decided to do this. He says it's in the interest of the country, bringing new people with new ideas. But of course, you have other people who are contesting the presidential elections. Nelson Chamisa of the SABC. You also have the current president who's vying for the position or to be re-elected. You have other candidates, including a woman who complained that the fees are too high. And also other people, one businessman in Zimbabwe also throwing his head in the ring. And therefore, you have quite a number of candidates, but let's wait and see what's likely to happen after the electoral court has finalized those papers for all those candidates.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens. But there's something that we also saw on the ground, especially when you look at what has been unfolding, either with, Jobs and Kala, and even some of these very candidates that you're mentioning, that there were concerns about how the elections may not be free and fair, the violence in the lead up to the elections. What are we hearing on that front?
Of course, the opposition is still complaining that the process leading to this election was not fair, in a sense that you had the government with all the resources, but secondly, they were complaining about violence. On the other hand, you have government saying that there was no violence, everything is above board, and also the Electoral Commission saying that. But remember, the Electoral Commission of Zimbabwe is always embroiled in controversies with opposition parties questioning how it's conducting its business. As we speak, people want a voter's roll, and the voter's roll was not made available on time. And therefore, elections, you don't win elections on voting day. It is a long process. If that process was not fair, there is no way as an opposition you can stand a chance to win elections. And that's the view from many people in Zimbabwe and outside Zimbabwe. But the opposition is saying it's soldiering on, and those candidates who will be contesting are saying they are soldiering on, and let the Zimbabweans decide. But you have the Zimbabweans in the diaspora saying that they have been excluded.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with this one, especially when you mentioned that issue of the voters' roll. It was a big one, 2 days just for it to be finalized. Clearly, for some, it wasn't enough. But let me thank you for your time, Sophie. I do appreciate it. That was our international news editor, Sophie Mokoena.